Dear students, welcome to DBMS lecture video sessions. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about database system concepts and architecture. This is Dr. K. Praveen Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of IT. So in this lecture video, we are going to discuss about data models and their categories. Especially, we are focusing on data independence, and these are the concepts of this chapter. We are focusing on the data independence in this chapter. In this chapter, you are going to learn data independence. Right. Lecture 11 outcome. So analyze how data independence enhances database efficiency. And we are also going to explain various types of database systems, concepts, and its architecture. Data independence. Data independence can be explained using three schema architecture. So data independence refers the characteristics of being able to modify the scheme at one level of database and without altering or updating the schema at the next higher level. So this three schema architecture we have already discussed in the previous CDD. So there are two types of data independence. One is logical data independence, the other one is physical data independence. Logical data independence refers characteristics of being able to change the conceptual schema, which we have discussed in the previous lecture video. If you are not able to understand, please go through the previous video. Conceptual schema without having to change in external schema. This is also we have discussed in three schema architecture. So now logical data independence refers the characteristics of being able to change. You are changing at conceptual schema and that will not affect on external schema. And logical data independence is used to separate external level from conceptual view, And if we do any changes in the conceptual view of data, then the user view of data would not be affected. That is, external view will not be affected. The logical data independence occurs at user interface level. Logical data independence occurs at user interface level. Coming to physical data independence, second type of data independence is physical data independence. So the physical data independence can be defined as the capacity to change internal schema, without having changed conceptual schema, So if we do any changes in the storage size, the database system server, then conceptual structure of data will not be affected. Physical data independence is used to separate conceptual level from internal level. Physical data independence occurs at the logical interface level. The importance of data independence. So it helps to improve the quality of the data, and database system become an affordable, and enforcement of standard and improvement in database security. And you don't need to alter data structures in application program. You need not to change anything. And it permits developers to focus on the general structure of the database rather than worrying about the internal implementation. It allows us to improve the state which undamaged or undivided. And database encouraged is versatility vastly reduced. So you can easily make a modification in the physical level is needed to improve the performance of the system. Different DBMS languages. The user can access, update, delete, store data and information in the database using database languages So there are several database management languages which we have already discussed in the lab session. That is data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, and a transaction control language, which you have already learned in the laboratory session. This is DDL, DML, and DCL. This is transaction control language. So these are the commands we have already done in the laboratory session. Data definition language contains create, drop, truncate, and rename. This is already we have completed in the lab session. You know the syntax of each and every command. In the data manipulation language, select command, insert command, delete command, update command. The data control language, revoke of privileges and granting of privileges. In transaction control language, rollback and commit. For these two, we will be having one point, that is save point. Coming to DDL, data definition language. So the data definition language is used for defining the structure of our schema of the database. It is also used for creating index tables, indexes, applying constraints, etc. in the database. And the main purpose of DDL is to store the information of metadata like the number of schemas, and tables, their names, indexes, constraints, columns in the each table. And the result of data definition language statements will be a set of tables which are stored in a special file called the data directory or data dictionary. So this language is used by the conceptual schema to access and retrieve the records from or to the database respectively, where these records describes entities, relationships, and attributes. So we already discussed in the previous lectures what is entity, what is relation, and what is attribute. Entity is like a real world object, and in your laboratory session we call an entity. Table name is an entity, and attributes are the fields of your table. Data definition language, there are two commands. One is create and alter. Create table, table name is, and the field names with data types. That is, we have discussed in the laboratory session. Create command is used to create the new tables or new database. Alter is used to alter or change the structure of the database table. Drop command is used to delete the tables, indexes, or views. And a truncate is to delete the records or data from the table, but its structures remains the same. A rename command is used to rename the database name. And the comments is used to, just like you can give the comments for a different tables. Data manipulation language. Data manipulation language is mainly of two types: procedural data manipulation language and a declarative data manipulation language. And procedural DML, this type of DML describes what data is to be accessed and how to get the data. The declarative DML or non-procedural DML, this type of DML only describes what data is to be accessed without specifying how to get it done. In the data manipulation language, we are having select, insert, update, delete commands are there. Select command is used to retrieve the data from the database, and select command, there are various options are there. Select distinct by, and select where class we have discussed, and you have retrieved database data from the database. So the general example is select a star from table name. The generalized one is select star from table name. Table name. And every query ends with a semicolon. And insert command, this command is used to insert records into the table. For that, you will be having a command called insert into table name and field values. Insert into table name, and then we use values here, values. Then within that, whatever the parameters we have, we will write and ends with an semicolon. And update table, update is also used to update the existing data table in file, update table, table name, set or modify, and you will give the fields which you want to change. And delete is used to delete all the records from the table. Generally delete with the help of where class we will complete this delete command. Data control language is used to access the stored or saved data. It is mainly used for revoking and granting a revoke and granting users access on a database. In the Oracle database, this language does not have any features like features of rollback. It's a part of SQL. So there are commands like grant, which allows user access privileges to the database, and revoke or removes the accessibility of user from the database objects. Data transaction control language is a language which manages transaction within the database. It is used to execute the changes made by the data manipulation language statements. The statements are commit and a rollback. Commit is just like a saving that particular transactions, and the rollback is just like undoing or restoring the database to particular state last committed. So there are different user-friendly interfaces provided by the DBMS, menu-based interfaces, form-based interfaces, graphical user interface, natural language interface, speech input-output interfaces, interfaces for parametric users, and interface for the database administrator. So for the different interfaces, first one is menu-based interface. What is menu-based interface? Menu-based interfaces contains a list of options through which user be able to send the request, and it is called pull-down menus are very popular techniques, web-based user interfaces. You are already experienced. I think many of the websites contains pull-down menus, and these types of interfaces are mainly used by the web browsing users and web clients. And form-based interfaces. These type of interfaces displaying the form at each user, the user is able to fill the entries to insert new data. These forms are usually designed and programmed by the Navy users and interfaces for recorded transactions. User who wants to submit the online information by filling and submitting the details are going to use this these types of interfaces to create account on a website or enrolling into some institutions, etc. are also preferred to use this interface. Graphical user interfaces contains diagrammatic form that comprises the schema to the user, and the user asks a query by manipulating the diagram. And these types of interfaces are used by the users who use electronic gadgets like mobile phones and touchscreens. Natural language interfaces accept the request from the user and try to interpret it. The natural language interface have their own schema, which is like the data conceptual schema. The search engines these days are using for natural language interfaces. User can see the search engines to accept the words and retrieve the related information. Speech input-output interfaces, these type of interfaces accept speech as an input and output the speech as a result. Just like your real-time examples, say Siri. So Google, in that you will speak and you will get the you will give the input. So these type of interfaces are mostly used in the inquiry for telephone directory or to get the flight information over the smart gadgets. Interfaces and parametric users. Parametric users like bank tellers have a small set of operations that they must perform repeatedly. These interfaces contain some commands to perform a request with the minimum keystrokes. These interfaces can be used in bank transactions to deposit or withdraw money. Interfaces for database administrator, commands like creating an account, manipulate the database to perform some operations on the database. Interfaces are specially used by the database administrator. So typically DBMS, these are the DBMS components. This is DBA staff, casual users, application programmers, parametric users, and all will get the data from the stored database. These are the intermediary levels. We will, of course, we will discuss about this in the further videos in detail. So summary of this lecture video is you will be able to know about the data independence, and you can distinguish the different data DBMS languages and interfaces and database system utilities or tools. We'll meet with another topic in the another video. Thank you.